Hey everybody, this is Rich from richonmoney.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about the fatal flaws that I see in Dave Ramsey's baby steps. Now don't get me wrong, Dave Ramsey has some great stuff. I love his methods of getting rid of debt, but we're talking overall about money today, and he's got fatal flaws. I'm going to go into detail, but here are the highlights. He wants too big of an emergency fund. He's too aggressive on low interest debt. Not aggressive enough on saving for retirement, and he's totally misguided in paying off your mortgage early. And I speak from experience. I paid my mortgage off early. The last thing I'm going to talk about is borderline criminal. Watch to the end and you'll see what it is. We're going to go through Dave Ramsey's baby steps one by one. Baby step one is have $1,000 of an emergency fund. I really can't argue with this. Having $1,000 is a good start. I'd argue you should have more, and Dave gets to that in baby step three, but I believe this is flawed. We'll get to that later. Baby step two, pay off all your debt except your primary residence. Now again, I've given Dave props for this. Paying off all your debt is a pretty good thing. But there are some issues with Dave's idea of paying off all debt. You see, there are things like student loans, car loans, personal loans that are low interest. You might have several loans that are less than 5%. If you have low interest debt, that you don't need to pay that off soon, and that you could invest that money instead of paying it off. Baby step three is to have 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. Now this takes us back to baby step one. I didn't think that 1,000 was enough, but I will also tell you that having 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund is probably not a very smart thing to do. I say 2 to 3 months of expenses is plenty. The rest of that money should probably go in maxing retirement accounts, investment accounts, real estate. These are things that all could happen first before you decide to put 6 months of expenses in an account making almost no interest at all. Dave's ultra conservative, and while you're not going to go bankrupt following this advice, you're going to leave lots and lots of money on the table. Baby step four is to invest 15% of your income in retirement accounts. Hold on a second. You might feel like 15% is a lot. I am here to tell you 15% is nowhere near enough. This is one of the most important flaws I see in Dave's philosophy. Retirement accounts are a legal way to cheat on taxes. You are crazy if you don't try to max this out every single year. So this baby step of 15% should simply be renamed max out retirement accounts. I wouldn't do another thing, not even real estate, definitely not Bitcoin, definitely not timeshares. I'm not doing anything until I max out my retirement accounts. And neither should you. Of course, to understand why this makes sense, you have to understand the idea of index funds compounding over time and how that builds massive, massive wealth. This is something that Warren Buffett talks about. This is something that the financial independence community talks about at length. Baby step five is save for your children's college fund. Now I did this. I invested in a Coverdell fund. There's 529 plans. I've looked at a lot of different options. I can tell you they're a little bit tedious. There's a bunch of restrictions, how much money you can put in, what you can do with it, when you can take it out, who you can give it to, who you can't give it to. I really am not a fan of these plans. If you max out retirement accounts and then put money in your own investment accounts, potentially put money into real estate investments, which is also tax advantaged, you're going to do just as well or probably better than you would do if you took advantage of these education accounts. This is way, way smarter than doing a Coverdell or a 529 education plan for your children. Baby step six is pay off your mortgage. Oh, I love this one. It has a special place in my heart. Why do I say that? The first property I ever bought, I paid off in 7 years. It was my primary residence, but I was in the military, so I moved away. And it was a great feeling paying it off. And what inspired me to pay it off was Dave Ramsey's baby steps. So I can tell you from experience, it felt great to pay it off. It's a burden off of you. You see more cash coming in each month. But I've done the math. I've got the calculators out. I broke out the spreadsheets. If I'd taken that money and instead of paying off the property, I would have put it in either investments or real estate, I would have come out far, far ahead of where I am now. There is some regret there. I can tell you that paying off a mortgage is psychologically a great thing, but the numbers don't support it. There's something to be said about peace of mind, and peace of mind is great. I should probably also mention, I own 30 properties, 20 of them are paid off. But I can tell you, I'd be a lot more wealthy had I used leverage for those properties and controlled a lot more real estate than paid them all off. There are trade-offs in life. You don't have to be aggressive or careless with leverage to get ahead in life. It is possible to safely and smartly leverage debt to make money throughout your life. Most gurus and gimmicky people do this wrong. There's a way to do it right. debt. So I am not for paying your mortgage off. Let's talk a little bit about Dave and his philosophy on life. He's totally against using credit cards. He wants you to pay your mortgage off. He wants you to pay off all debt, even if it's 1, 2, or 3% debt, and that's not a great idea. Why does he want to do this? Well, he's extremely risk averse. If you're the kind of person that can't control yourself, and you would likely not invest money that you saved, but you would squander it somehow on traveling or shopping or gambling or something, then yeah, you should avoid credit cards. You should pay off your primary mortgage because you don't know how to handle money. But if you do know how to handle money, Dave Ramsey is way too conservative, and you are leaving hundreds of thousands or millions on the table over a lifetime if you follow his baby steps. Which brings me to baby step number 7. This is the one that I consider borderline criminal. Sorry, Dave. Baby step number 7 is build wealth and give. Well, how can I crap on that? How does Dave recommend you build wealth? By investing in one of his mutual funds, which have a front-end load. You pay a 5% fee when you invest in a mutual fund. That's money that he and his salesmen make right off the top, whether you make a penny or not. They get that 5%. He would argue that that is smart because you are buying the services of a seasoned person who has access to lots of mutual funds and all the information and can give you the right advice. The problem is that just ain't true. You have access to all those mutual funds. You don't need all that advice. It's pretty damn simple. In fact, in 99 out of 100 cases, if you put your money in the S&P 500 with no front load at all, you are extremely likely to far outperform any of his advisors and save the 5%. So don't do it. Look, Dave has somehow justified this to himself. He probably has convinced himself this 5% is honest living, but it is not. 5% is a ton of money. I get upset when mutual fund companies charge 0.5% or even 1% management fees. If you put your money in Charles Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity, you can invest in most mutual funds for 0.04% instead of 5%. Those kind of fees lost compounded over 20, 30, 40 years will reach 6 figures, and in some people's cases will reach 7 figures. Do not let Dave and his advisors have all your money. That's crazy. To talk more about baby step 7, build wealth and give, he doesn't bring up real estate. I believe that his philosophy on real estate is if you're going to invest in real estate, do it only with paid off properties. Again, I've done that. It isn't the greatest way to build wealth. If you can put 25% down on a property, get a nice 30-year fixed loan, rent that property out, make some cash flow, have it increase in value over time, and repeat these steps in the future, you can be very successful in real estate. Now, there's a lot of ways to screw up real estate by over-leveraging and getting too aggressive. Don't do that crap. If you follow me, I'll teach you how to do real estate right. But Dave doesn't approach real estate correctly. He doesn't approach investing correctly. So Dave, you got some work to do. Hope this was helpful today. Which advice did you like the most? Or do you think I'm full of crap? I want to hear about it in the comments. This is Rich on Money, signing off.